shake. Make the ground shake.
Don't have a good time.
here with you. See your face in the crowd, but you don't seem so far away. Nothing between us is empty space, empty space. Even when the music is loud, I'd rather be no other place. Here with you now, here with you now. Here with you now. Here with you. Rather be no other place than here with you now. Place than here with you. I see your face in the crowd, but you don't seem so far away. Nothing between us is empty space, empty space. Even when the music is loud, I'd rather be no other place. Here with you now, here with you now.
I'm watching our Periscope because I have no other way to tell when we go live. So that's gonna have to be my cue. Probably be a few seconds behind. Oh, we must be live now because I can see that our show producer has unmuted his or undeafened himself in Discord. So what's up, y'all? Welcome to Generation Orange. Man, it has been a few weeks and it's only been a week. It's been a kind of a crazy week between work and Gen Orange stuff. But yeah, we're obviously introducing a new format. We're introducing some new stuff, and like we said, we always are pushing the envelope in every way, shape, and form that we can. I'm glad I heard your phone buzz because I realized I need to check mine.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. Reminders.
That's for sure. No, I'm kidding. You bring a lot to the table, Mark. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. But yeah, so you guys watching in YouTube, thank you for tuning in. Anybody who's watching on Periscope, I saw we got three watchers right now. That's pretty awesome. And then also on Twitch, man, it is hard juggling 3 different stream types. And then we've also brought in some additional help so that I can focus more on content as opposed to the actual stream. Thank you, Nestor, for stepping in and helping with that. I know he's going to stay muted. He's not going to unmute himself because he's cool like that. But
yeah, what's up, Nestor?
Stop hitting this damn mic. It's hurting my head.
Yeah, this is Nestor's first show with us, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. We did a test show a couple weeks ago, but we didn't actually stream anything. Yeah. But you just to test out and make sure the format in general was going to work. But I really like the layout. I think on the screen, I'm looking at it right now on Periscope. It's pretty slick. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but it's been a week where, because people are starting to go back now, so most people are going back to work. It's still not normal enough, and so I'm like, there's this level of exhaustion just from being almost halfway back to normal that wasn't there before. Because before, I was in this kind of like response mode, is what I call it, where I'm just going day to day. Like, I'm not even looking ahead past a single day. But now with people going back, I got to start looking ahead a little bit. And for some reason, that has me more tired than when I was going day to day for a month and a half.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm on the same boat as you. I mean, we just go day to day. I mean, and hope for the best, I guess. And if they call us to go to work, we go to work. If not, then then we stay home. But fortunately for me and the business that I'm in, I mean, we've been working through this whole thing, regardless of whether there's been a settle at home or whatever. We've been. That's
a nice shirt, by the way. I just want to call that out. It's a very nice product placement on that shirt right there. Very nicely done.
Yeah. But anywho, we'll see. Maybe we can get something done with them. But
I wouldn't.
Yeah, man. It's one of those things where hopefully, everything goes back to a little bit of closer to normalcy, with this phase 1 or whatever. I know a lot of people were excited about the malls and the theaters and all that stuff opening up. And I know they're opening up salons for the ladies and barbershops for the guys. A couple of us need head over to those barbershops. I don't know if the first week would be wise, but maybe later on down the road. But yeah, man, we're out here still doing it.
Hopefully week to week. Yeah, the goal is every week, but sometimes things do get in the way for sure. And we've both experienced that the last month and a half. Just trying to make this happen while at the same time trying to juggle the responsibilities of everything else. And it's been fun, but it's also been taxing and exhausting. And but like we said, we're here, and I know what you guys really care about is you guys want us to talk soccer. You guys want us to talk Dynamo. You guys want us to talk international soccer. We're gonna talk a little bit about that tonight. I know there's a poll that was sent out. That wasn't me, by the way. That was Mark about Bundesliga and who he should support in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, man. I mean,
that went out on Twitter. That was his 24-hour poll question of the day.
Yeah, but not for 24 hours right now because, obviously.
You got it up around, what was it, like noon?
Maybe 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago.
Oh, so 2 or 3. Gotcha.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, I want to do a thing where, I have a poll question to kind of interact with the viewers and all that stuff. So that way we have something to talk about as far as, debating on whatever's going on during at that time period. But obviously right now it's kind of slow. But the Germans, they're gonna take the initiative and restart soccer. So and it's
behind closed doors.
Behind the closed doors, yeah, obviously. But they're gonna take the first step and to see if they can make this happen, and kind of be the pioneers of this, I guess. And it's one of those things where, I do watch Bundesliga, but not. It's one of the leagues that I watch rarely. There's so much soccer, and you can only watch so much. But for some reason, the Bundesliga has been one of the leagues that I haven't really focused too much on. Aside from like obviously the big clubs that play in the Champions League or Europa League or whatever, things of that nature. So, I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, well, I have a favorite team, in La Liga, Serie A, Liga MX, MLS, obviously. But I don't have them for Bundesliga, man. And if they're going to be the only soccer we're going to be watching for a little bit, I kind of want to have a rooting interest. I know a lot of people were picking like their Korean baseball team to root for. So I kind of said, you know what, let me take it this route, man. I need to pick a soccer team from the Bundesliga to root for. Aside from Bayern Munich, I don't want to do the whole Bayern Munich, buying up everybody's player from other teams and all that stuff. I'm not down with that. So I threw up the question on Twitter, and a couple people have answered. I think we're up to like 15 or 16 responses. And I think Borussia Dortmund's in the lead right now with RB Leipzig, or whatever you pronounce that. Second. Leipzig. Okay. So
where's Pat when we need him to tell us how to properly pronounce German words? Trust me, Pat will tell us. No, I so I'm a Tottenham fan, as you well know. Yeah. And we got our asses handed to us by Leipzig. So I would say RB Leipzig if it was me. And I don't have a Bundesliga team at the moment. I've rooted for multiple. I just enjoy watching all of it, really. But if I had to pick one right now, it would probably be RB Leipzig, just because the way that they're playing it is smooth to watch, and it is good football to watch.
Well, see, going in, that was my kind of first choice, because all the young players that they have, it's a really young team. And I know a couple of the players, and obviously like Tyler Adams is involved, so that's one of the good things about that team. You have an American perspective to it, but you also have like Borussia Dortmund, where obviously they had Christian Pulisic, and now they have Gio Reyna on there, and then obviously young players like Sancho and all that stuff. The only problem that I have with Borussia Dortmund is, and it might not be that much of a problem because I keep hearing rumors of him leaving after this season, is Mario Götze. Now, my beef with Mario Götze, nothing against him. It's just that he scored the goal against Argentina in the World Cup final in 2014. So that's my
yeah, no, I could feel that. Like it hurts me to think about that. But so we've got multiple answers actually coming from chat, and they're all different. Nobody said the same team. So Sergio says Schalke. Nestor says anyone but Borussia Dortmund. Fidel says Eintracht Frankfurt.
Frankfurt was a good team last season, man. I'm not gonna lie, but I haven't really followed up on them this season at all. The only reason I know is because they played Arsenal last season in the Europa League, and they were playing. It was a pretty good a home and away match.
Sergio says Leipzig are the Man City of the Bundesliga, oil money wise, anyways. They're really not spending the money like Man City are. They're buying younger players, and they're just kind of stocking their young players, and they've got a style that works for them. Rico played for Hoffenheim, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Rico played for Frankfurt.
Frankfurt. No, he played for two teams in the Bundesliga.
I remember Frankfurt. I don't remember him with anybody else, but I could be wrong.
You don't follow Bundesliga, so how can I trust your opinion on it?
Well, Google it.
That's what I'm doing right now, actually. Thank you very much. I'll tell you who he played for. He's going to pull it up here in just a second. Go ahead. You talk and ramble on while I pull it up for us.
Yeah. So, and obviously Sergio also said on the chat, Schalke 04. And, Schalke 04 was a good team back in the days. Like I think the last time I really followed them was when they had that deep Champions League run. And I think Raul was on their team, and Klaus John Huntland was on their team. So they had like a prolific striker duel right there. But yeah, man, like I said, Bundesliga is one of the leagues that kind of have least following. I know of them, obviously, but I don't really watch too much. But since that's the only thing available, I might become the biggest Bundesliga fan in the world, man, pretty soon. So I need some help. Hopefully by the end of the show, I can come up with a decision and a choice, and maybe go purchase a jersey and really support them.
I'll have to pick their rival. Just we got to keep that rivalry going, right?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So Rico played for Frankfurt in 2010, 2011, and then he was loaned out to Stabæk in the Norwegian League in 2012 out of Oslo. Interesting. So yeah, the only Bundesliga team he played for. I knew he played for another team. I just couldn't remember who it was. So let's see. So Frankfurt.
We'll see, man. I mean, I'm trying to I've been researching them a little bit for the last 20 minutes prior to going on the show. Kind of.
Yeah, he posted that tweet, by the way, and I'm gonna tell y'all right now. I know Mark well enough to say this at this point. His ass didn't even start looking at real Bundesliga teams until about 20 minutes before the show started. Even then, he was doing it on his phone while he was picking up his hat. Had to go grab that hat because
the hair a little mess out here. So
Oh, that wasn't a little bit of a mess, bro. I will make you at some point. I should make you take that damn hat off so they can see how bad that haircut is.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe in a week or two, I'm gonna have like little twisties or little things, braided up there or something like that. Now, so we'll see. But yeah, man. I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm up for grabs, guys, for your fandom. I know Ness is a huge Bayern Munich fan. Everybody's been Bayern, but I said anybody but Bayern Munich. I'm sorry, guys. It's just one of those things where I don't want to choose the cannibal of the league, So Borussia Dortmund, RB Leipzig, Frankfurt. Well,
you got to pick a team you can pronounce. So it probably comes down to about Frankfurt, and that's about it. Frankfurt.
Yeah, Frankfurt. I could do Borussia Dortmund or Borussia Luka. No, never mind. I just messed it up there.
Bayern Leverkusen, is that the one you're thinking of?
Leverkusen, and then the other one.
You can't pronounce that one either, so that one's out.
Yeah.
Borussia Dortmund or Frankfurt. Those are about the only two that you think you could pronounce right now.
Wolfsburg.
Wolfsburg.
Oh, okay. If you want to put the accent in it, but
Wolfsburg, actually, Wolfsburg.
Yeah,
I'm serious. Where's Pat, man? This is like Pat's conversation in a nutshell. Like Pat would be like all over this, like German names. Let's go.
For sure. But yeah, man. But so you wanted to touch on bases on something about the USL going on, right?
All right. By the way, guys, this is going to be an hour show tonight. We have dedicated 1 hour solely, mostly just because there's not a whole lot to update for you in terms of the Dynamo. So 1 hour each week until MLS season resumes, and then we'll try to get back to 2 hours regularly. But with that being said, it was announced yesterday that that USL is launching a USL Academy League, which is interesting because they have a very wide-reaching system of 137 roughly teams, I believe, across the U.S. and being able to launch an Academy League tied to those teams and tied to the USL versus the one that was tied to MLS and USSF in general is really good for USL. Now, what does that mean for the Dynamo? What does that mean for MLS teams? I don't think it's going to change a whole lot, with the exception of teams like the Dynamo, where they have a partnership with the USL club. And the Dynamo are not going to send their academy players to go play for RGV's academy. So, and there's no MLS Academy anymore. So, or MLS Academies League. So, where do those teams go compete? Do the Dynamo basically launch a USL team so that they can connect that to the Academy League, or what? And the requirement is you have to have you have to have an USL franchise in one of the three leagues that is your franchise in order to have a USL Academy League team. Even more important, the USL Academy League team will be comprised of U15s up to U19s together, playing together. So you're actually going to, for the first time, be able to have players that are good enough to play for the U19s, even if they're U15, and be able to play with them. And that's great for the growth of youth development here in the U.S. because, really most players that are under 19, they're not getting to play with the 19s. They're playing with their age group or really close to their age group. And if they do get promoted, it's a big difference. Whereas if they're already playing together and other teams have those same players, that scale becomes a little less volatile. It becomes a lot more balanced. And so I think, in that regards, I think we are going to see the Dynamo probably launch a USL club. They'll probably do it. And it's not going to be USL championship. It'll probably be a USL League One team, and or League Two team, and that'll probably be here in Houston or Rosenberg, Victoria, that area, or all the way up to the Woodlands, perhaps. But they're definitely launching one somewhere. I just don't, and they very well could play out of HSP too. I mean, it makes sense for them to play there.
But it's good. I mean, especially for these young kids who are like way ahead of their times and they're highly skilled. 15-year-olds playing with 19-year-olds who are a little bit more grown into their bodies, so they can learn to take that physicality and and all that good stuff. And especially for the 19, especially for those kids. I mean, because if they're 15-year-olds playing with 19-year-olds, I mean, maybe a year later they're playing a little bit higher and then a little higher and then moving up and up, and then who knows, maybe in a couple of years the Dynamo will field a teenage kid on the first team, from this going on from this.
So Ryan says, wasn't MLS going to make a DA league? There were rumors that was going to happen, but I think the rumors were actually pointed at the USL Academy League that launched, because MLS hasn't said anything to that regard as to my knowledge, currently anyways. I do know that USSF disbanded their youth league system, basically the entire development academy system that they had built up, and that's what MLS was tied into. Ryan also says all MLS 2 teams should be League 2. They shouldn't be in the championship. I completely agree, and I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet officially. I suspect the USL Championship clubs and even the USL Championship commissioner is kind of pushing them that way, which is why we've seen most of the MLS 2 teams start heading that direction. Excuse me, but it's interesting to me too, because we're talking League 2 and there's a jump between League 2 and MLS play, and I would be curious how many MLS teams would be comfortable with players that are good enough to be right on the edge of the top level of League 2, jumping straight into MLS play as a sub, and then not really having an outlet unless you loan that player out to another team in USL Championship, because they're not likely to get minutes on their MLS club.
Well, I mean, if you have a player like that, it's like obviously outshining that level of competition. I mean, you have I'm thinking that USL Championship will be out there scouting players, obviously because they're young. Because I mean, if you have, let's say for example, the Dynamo have a 16-year-old kid out there just wrecking it, but the Dynamo don't feel that he's, he has the physique for MLS yet, as of yet. So they might loan him to USL Championship club and let him go there for a year and see how he does against, players a little bit older, maybe 20, 22, 23 years old, and see how he plays against those type of players. And if he's still showing that he's still a level above them, then you consider it for the following year. But, but it's good to have that gap in between, because sometimes you might get that Freddie Adu backtrack, unfortunately, when you field him up too early, you consider him the next Pele, and then he just craps the bed and falls face first to the ground, and you don't want to do that to a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid.
No, and I think that's my concern, is that there's going to have to be some level of partnership between MLS franchises and USL Championship clubs to be able to loan players. Because the other thing you have to keep in mind too is you don't want to send a player to the USL Championship. Let's say they're ready to play at that level. You send them out there and they're not getting a whole lot of minutes because their coach just doesn't believe in that player. Whatever it is, there has to be some level of agreement that, hey, we're basically giving you this player we know is good enough to play at this level. We want him to compete, but at the same time, he needs to get minutes because he needs game time.
Well, I mean, it's going to be the same thing like when European clubs, grab players from other European clubs' academies and stuff like that. Because, I mean, you can say, hey, I'm going to send you, and I'm using him as an example because I know his situation. Real Madrid is going to send Danny Ceballos to Arsenal, and I need you to play him because he was a beast in the U21 FIFA World Cup, whatever, blah, blah, and we're trying to get him rolling and make sure he gets regular minutes, because at this particular moment in time, we don't have a spot for him because the midfield is all crowded. But we want him to play every minute as much as possible. Now, obviously, when he was with Unai Emery, he started him, but then he fell off. Then he got injured. So a lot of things took into consideration. So when you have a player like that, for example, over here, you can go with all the praise, like, hey, well, if we were trying to get this player on loan, obviously the coach and the front office, I'm hoping would have a vision to use him in a particular type of way. Otherwise, why would you be trying to contact the Dynamo to get this player on loan? And hopefully that they're gonna use him and articulate and hopefully grow his skill level and his skills overall into the next level. But obviously things happen, and then if there's coaching changes or if there's tactical changes or formation changes, that can change a lot. I mean, you can agree to a lot of things prior, but but at the end of the day, if the team isn't winning or if the player isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing, minutes are up for grabs everywhere and every level of soccer.
I don't disagree. I think I need to rephrase my concern. We're talking a gap between USL League 2 and USL Championship that is roughly 4 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
That's technically 2 levels of, in terms of development age. That's two levels. That would be, you're talking U19s is where the cutoff will be. So you have U19s. So then you have U21s, U23s. Because most kids graduate, and here's where I'm going with this. Most kids graduate college after 4 years, and you hit college at 18, roughly 19, 20, 21, 22. By the time you graduate college, you're 23, you're headed to the draft, if you're good enough. If you're not good enough, you're going to USL Championship and hoping that you can be good enough to play there. So if you're bringing a kid up that's a U19 kid from the elite academy, the USL Academy League, and he's proven himself good enough there, that's a significant leap versus a 2-year leap. You're talking, you're just talking players. Most players that play in the USL Championship have already gone through college, or they're older than that even.
Yeah.
Now, on the plus side, like you said, you're getting well, you didn't really point this out, but you're getting an opportunity as a young player to play against and play with players that have a lot of experience and a lot of talent, that are good enough, and see, can you measure up? I just think I have concerns that, you're talking about, European teams that are loaning these players out. I think those European teams also have a very large, very deep pool of players to do that. Here in the U.S., I think our pool of talent is incredibly tight right now. Now, maybe this helps develop that. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But I just feel like there's some things that need to be addressed from an MLS standpoint, from a U.S. soccer standpoint, definitely from a U.S. soccer standpoint. U.S. soccer shuttering the development academies, or USSF development academy system, it's fine on paper, but if you don't have plans in place to mitigate that loss and that change, that can be very detrimental to the growth of talent in your talent pool in the country. And this is a federation that is supposed to be focused on the talent pool in this country.
So let me ask you a question.
To be fair, they haven't been focused on that in a long time. Go ahead.
So let me ask you a question. I mean, and I'm going to play devil's advocate on this.
You always play devil's advocate, and I appreciate it.
So, like, when do we take the training wheels off, per se? I mean, because you see all over the place in Europe and Spain, Italy, England, Germany, all over the world, teenage kids playing in their professional teams, their first team, not their U23s, not their academy, not their affiliate team from another league. They're playing in first team football. When will we see the training wheels come off and see clubs be more aggressive in pushing their players of those ages between, say, six? I mean, I don't want to say 16, but between 17 to 20. And pushing them on force.
I have an answer that's not going to satisfy you, but it's
no. I mean, I'm only asking the question just to get your perspective of it, because I have my opinion on it and I have my understanding of it as well. But obviously, I want to hear your opinion about it too.
It's not going to. MLS teams aren't going to play that way with their players until the technical level of those young players reaches how it is in Europe. In the U.S., the club team level, which is what most youth players come up through, is geared towards athleticism as opposed to technique and technical talent or technical ability. You have players that have vision and just need the physical, need to improve physically, which is something that can be trained. And then you have players that are physical, they already have the physical assets and talents, but they don't have an understanding of the technique or the technical side of soccer. They can't see the game in front of them. They're not able to adjust to that. And so, the question you're asking me, it's a very loaded question, because in Europe and around the world, players are brought up to focus more on the technical side of soccer, on that football IQ, on that football technique, how to see the play develop, how to respond to the play, as opposed to, I just need to run faster than the guy the guy that's playing defender. I need to beat him to the ball and then I can score a goal. And so because of the way I think the club system is here in the U.S., beyond pay to play and everything else, I think just the focus of how the club system is built right now, I think it is detrimental to the development of young players at all levels. We're not just talking, young players. We're talking all the way up to players that graduate from that, if you will, and those players are usually right out of high school. You're talking 17, 18-year-olds, and then they go off to college and they think they're amazing because they were so good for their club team, and then they go play college soccer and they fizzle out because college soccer it's a little bit more difficult. But even college soccer is structured that it's very similar, much more similar to the style of play of club teams or club soccer than it is the style of play of Major League Soccer or international soccer.
Well, obviously obviously you, myself, and I'm hoping the rest of the viewers understand why these kids are going to college soccer. It's more for the education, right?
Yeah,
but
of course.
But like, how do we get them to focus more on the soccer perspective? I mean, because there's a lot of talented kids, right? There's kids. There's kids being found everywhere. I mean, you the way it's looking now is almost every big club in Europe has an American somewhere in their system, and how is it that these clubs thousands of miles away, half the world away, can pick and pluck these players away from America, but the local MLS clubs can't find these players and can't develop these players?
So it's twofold. Number one, scouting. International clubs are paying money to scout. They have scouts. They literally have scouts. Number two, it's you hit the nail on the head. It's what is that what is that factor that keeps kids from going to college and instead stays with your system? And I think that's actually an easy answer, but it's in terms of like an actual answer, but in terms of how do you address it, that's a totally different ballgame. But the answer to that is, you have to provide an education that is equitable to what they would get at college. You have to be able to provide a means for them to acquire that same degree from a 4-year university, some way, somehow, whether it's that you've partnered with a university to be able to provide that to them or whatever, I don't know. But you also have to, be willing to take on that investment and assume the responsibility that investment is going to pan out. And I think there's a trepidation by many MLS clubs because of the current atmosphere and current climate of club soccer and college soccer, that they don't want to dive into that, because in this country, in order to get a college degree in college education, you have to go through the college board of admissions, or not college board of admissions, but the college regulations around that are tied to this country.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, why is that, and why do I even bring that up? Because that if an MLS club is going to partner with a university, a 4-year university, that player cannot receive certain things while they're getting an education, and the club would have to pay for their full education. Overseas, when we're talking about a 4-year education, we're talking $10,000, $12,000 for most countries, and that's on the high end. Here, it's not absurd that it's 40 to 50 a year. So that's a totally different investment level when you're talking about 4 years here in the U.S. versus 4 years overseas.
Well, but I think we touched on this in a couple shows back. But I mean, like, obviously, we know the NCAA, and their rules against money being given to players or any extra special treatment for these student athletes or whatever, and which I think is complete crap first and foremost. But
Preach.
but like there's other avenues. I mean, obviously, you have other colleges, that aren't affiliated or don't have sports teams. Let's, maybe instead of offering, like I think I said this last time, offering an associate's degree up to associate's degree level with, partnering up with, let's say, ACC or Lone Star College for right now, and you go to school. And then when you're done with school, you go practice. You go to the club and you train, and you're going to be part of the club. That way these kids don't have to choose college soccer, which obviously college soccer, regardless if you even expand the season, because I see Ryan on the chat says needs to be expanded. It needs to be expanded, but just the form of soccer that is played in the NCAA, it just doesn't translate to professional soccer. I mean, you get your couple players here and there who make a name for themselves in MLS or whatever. But what's the last great college soccer player that's come out, that you can think of? Maybe Jordan Morris,
Yeah.
But aside from that,
actually, you know what? Miles Robinson plays for
Atlanta.
Atlanta, yeah. Probably best player in the last 3 years.
Yeah, but you're talking one or two players out of how many players that come out of college,
Yeah, no, five players per year out of all 4 rounds of MLS draft are usually the only ones that are going to start for an MLS team any minutes, across any given season.
And Fidel brings up a great point on the chat. A lot, soccer, even though it's different over there in college, you go there and you play and you get injured. You don't learn any kind of new skills or anything like that. You just learn whatever the style of play for that team is. So you're not really developing anything besides learning how to play in a team. And man, it sucks because I understand. Don't get me wrong. I understand why the kids and the parents lean to pushing their kids towards getting that college education. Obviously, because if you're not for sure certain that you can go above and beyond with the soccer career, hey man, if you can go get a 4-year scholarship and play soccer while you're at it, I understand completely. But there has to be something that MLS or the US Federation can do to where we can kind of level the playing field with the European clubs, with the European teams and the UEFA and the CONMEBOL. Because obviously, like, you take places like South America where it's, man, if you don't make it in soccer, you're going to be, your life is not going to be that great, unless you're really good at school or whatever. The same thing in Europe, means in some European countries, it's, hey, let's go out there and get this soccer training. And, you see all these kids with these really great soccer skills and all that great stuff because they just practice and practice and practice. I think I saw a video the other day on Twitter. I think a 6-year-old kid, dude had more ball skills than me, than I've ever had probably in my life, and it's crazy. But yeah, man, I just,
well, let me ask you, let me flip the script here real quick for you, because now I'm gonna put it to you on a personal level. Okay. So you obviously know a kid in the that is rising up in the MLS or Dynamo Academy ranks. Yeah. So what would your advice be to him?
Man, if
doesn't that suck to have it flip right back on you like that too?
No, look.
But that's a valid question.
For sure it is. And and the thing about him, like, me and his father, we've talked a lot, man, about him. And he's a really good kid, really great ball skills and everything, great vision on the field and all that good stuff. And it's tough because he has so much potential, so much potential. And he's gonna keep growing and getting bigger, and and hopefully, with him rising up in the Dynamo Academy, he'll be playing pretty soon with bigger kids. I think he's 16 right now. He's playing with the U19s, if I remember correctly. Which obviously, and that is an accomplishment in itself, right? But but he has him, and I'm speaking about the kid in general. he has bigger dreams than just that, which is great, you know. But the thing is, like, you know, how to get to point A to point B, you know, because he's really focused on this soccer thing. Like, there's no doubt in my eyes. You know, obviously, I don't spend as much time with him as obviously his father and his parents and all that stuff they do. But there's no doubt in my mind from what I've seen that this kid wants a professional career in soccer. You know, and he does. He's not. He's going to run through walls and whatever he needs to go through to make that happen. Okay, so now you have a kid with that motivation to do that. But how do you get him there? What do we do different? What are we doing differently from Europe that you can see a kid at his age already playing on the first team? You know, same body structure, same everything, already playing, you know, whether it's just cup games, US Open Cup games or whatever, you know, they're playing on the first team, you know? What do we need to do differently? That's where I'm kind of like, man, I don't know how to, you know, get from point A to point B.
So let me ask this question. And I'm posing this question because it's something I've always thought about and I've always wondered. Is it easier because players have the out of college for a player who maybe doesn't have that level of commitment that this academy player does, that they kind of look at it and they go, you know, I might be able to succeed if I stuck with soccer, but you know what? I can go get an education and I don't have to put my body through the rigor and, you know, through that. Does it require a different level of passion and commitment in the U.S. because of the structure and the way that things are?
I think it does in a way, but in all honesty, I mean, you know, and I'm not just talking about soccer players in general. I'm talking about all type of players that have that decision whether or not to keep going in college or whatever.
In any sport, it's not just soccer. In any sport,
you know, in the world we live in with all social media and everything that's going on and all this stuff, they see how these professional players live and everything, the glitz and glamour, right? And everybody wants that, you know. I think everybody's wanted that at one point in their lives, you know, whether that dream got shut down real quick or you're still trying to achieve that. I mean, it's another thing, but the thing is where we get lost is, as far as youth soccer players, is how to get to that. You know, maybe there's only a few that can be that top elite player. You know, obviously, if we're talking about American players, we're talking that Pulisic level, you know, maybe Landon Donovan prior to that, you know, level. But how do you get to that? I mean, because there's such few examples from the Americans' perspective to where if I throw out a country, you can name 5, 6, 7 players in Europe in that European country that, man, you know, and you can name 5, 6, 7.
Luxembourg. I want 5 players from Luxembourg. I want them right now. Don't challenge me. I know my European countries, bro.
But you know what I'm saying, though. Like,
yeah, like, I know. The big countries.
Yeah, the big countries. I mean, you have players who are 18, 19 years old that you can roll off roll off your tongue, but none of them are American. You know, none of them are playing in MLS. None of them are playing in, you know, Liga MX or whatever. You know, like, you know, why?
So I'm gonna. There are some really good points being made in YouTube chat, and I know that we're no longer showing that on the stream. So if you guys want to check that out, you can check it out later by going to the YouTube video that'll be up on the channel, or you can go check out the stream right now on YouTube if you're watching on Twitch or Periscope, because you're missing really good chat right now, really good chat. But I think there's a few things in particular that are being pointed out, and it's all focused on college soccer. But there's one thing in particular that I think we kind of miss as well, and that is we already start at a disadvantage compared to most other countries because, and this ties into something that was said, which is starting wages. Players who are on the low end of soccer that are going to go pro, they're going to be paid nickel and dime compared to a player that's on the low end of NFL or even MLB. Minor league players in AAA are making more than most MLS rookies are. By only a very small fraction, mind you, but still, it still matters. The reason why that's important, though, is because the starting wages in MLS are so crappy. If a player is looks at MLS and says, it's kind of a bit over for me, then they're not going to continue. They're going to go, I can go get my 4-year degree, I can make more money, and it's not guaranteed money, air quote, but it's essentially, promised money that I can go make. Whereas, in other sports, even if you're a low end player, you're still making enough to live off. And that's a difference. And then I'm going to take this a step farther. Cisco says starting wages are getting better. I will agree with that. Slowly trickling upward, very slowly, but getting there. I think the other difference is when we're talking about sports in particular, there's no defined pathway through college soccer to MLS, especially if you look at the last 10 years. And this has come about because of MLS shifting the focus from developing through the college ranks and developing super draft players to pulling in and bringing in foreign-based players. You can pull in a foreign-based player, and they're content to play for that, $30,000, $40,000 contract. Whereas if it's a U.S. player, they're going to ask you for 50, 60, 70,000 compared to that 20, 30, 40.
I'm sorry, but I mean, regards to that, I mean, if we're talking about a youth player, right, who is breaking into the first team. So let's say, an 18-year-old kid, right?
Sure. Let's use Eric McHugh as an example.
Yeah. So Eric McHugh, but he's a homegrown player who lives in your backyard. So he has somebody to live with. That's what I'm saying. I mean, obviously, if you're starting off, he's a rookie, basically. A non-drafted rookie, right? If we're gonna put it parallel to parallel, so obviously his salary is not gonna be, $100K the first year and for MLS terms, right? He's got to earn it. I mean, you're gonna crack the first team. We're gonna pay you $25,000 to $35,000 a year for an 18-year-old kid. I mean, 25 to 35K for an 18-year-old kid. I mean, let's get the perspective of soccer out the way. I mean, that's pretty okay for an 18-year-old kid. But then from then on out, the thing is, okay, so once you make that progress, where do you go from there? So let's say you're 2. If you're an important player where you're in and out of the starting lineup, then okay, and then this you move up to this level and onwards until you become formidable player, or you get transferred to another league or whatever. There needs to be some kind of structure, because I mean, obviously, I'm not saying you're going to pay the youth player $10,000 a year or anything like that. But I mean, if he's a player that's already, for example, we're using McHugh in as an example, who's already been signed a first team contract, is in and out between, well, obviously right now RGV and the Dynamo, yeah. Give the kid, a nice little 30 to 40K like Cisco's referring to right now, and keep it moving, and if he's worth the investment, then you raise him up. But if he's not, then you keep him where he's at, or and try to figure it out, or or whatever else needs to be done. But I mean, saying that the wages and all that stuff. I mean, the way MLS is structured for you to get your youth players is you got to pick them out your own backyard, basically. So they already have living expenses. They're living with their parents. They're living with whoever they need, because you're picking them out of your own backyard. So like the whole thing with like the Memo Rodriguez thing, Memo. I mean, he lived 3 hours from Houston. He made it out here, and he lived with his parents. His mom drove them, or his dad drove him, however the story goes, and that's the way it goes. There's no need for them to pay for living expenses or go rent an apartment or go get something else, because they're living with their parents.
So the chat is bringing up a good point, and I'm going to kind of piggyback off this too. So one of the things coming up in the chat is the current salary for a youth player that's a air quotes homegrown player essentially is $64K. It's somebody who's made your senior team. $64K a year. That's good money. However, you have to remember, these players also get to look at what they would make overseas. And for many of those players that are good enough to go overseas, they're making more than $64K. That also gives them exposure to overseas teams, which gives them a higher likelihood to be able to, that ceiling increases tenfold when you're overseas versus here in the US, your ceiling is middling at best.
Well, let's
And that's just being honest. But part of that comes from, again, MLS bringing in these foreign players that are now your top level players in the league consistently. We're not seeing U.S. players that even really crack the top, 100 players in MLS, with the rare exception of like 5. And so that being the case, if I'm a player and I'm looking at where am I going to go, well, if only the top, 10 of the top 100 are U.S. players that were basically developed in the U.S., why would I stay with MLS? Why would I not consider going overseas? That's my best opportunity to grow and to develop as a player to where I want to go.
And I understand that completely. But like I said, for Ryan brings up the example of Gio Reyna. Obviously Gio Reyna comes from a line of, his father played for U.S. soccer and stuff like that. So he has connections on and all that good things. But let's say he didn't have all his connections. He was just a really, really good, great player, which he obviously is because he's in the first team for Borussia Dortmund. But, if you have a player of that caliber in your academy and he has the opportunity to go somewhere else, then yeah, I understand that. But you have clubs dishing out big money because guess what? They're going to have to dish out money for living expenses, to move maybe a family member out there so he can be comfortable. These European clubs are investing to take away a player from their hometown to fly them across the world for them to live there. It would be the same thing around if let's say we have somebody like the thing with Mauro Manotas. You have to find him somewhere to live. So what do you call those families? Family where you can stay at, so you can there you go. Host family. Things like that. I mean, we have different options, obviously. I mean, to do what we can do to bring foreign youth players to the Dynamo, but obviously nothing to the extent of what European clubs do because, they offer nice dwellings and they allow for your mom or dad to come with you or to come visit you and all this other stuff. But I mean, but we have things in place that we can do to have these players come here at a young age or stay in a young age. I mean, because like I said, if Gio Reyna, said, you know what, let me try my craft in MLS, I'm going to get paid $64,000 this first year, but I'm going to be playing in first team football, whatever. Now, if NYFC couldn't see it and they didn't allow him to, then I understand why he went overseas, and if somebody was given an opportunity. The same thing with Marcelo Palomino here in the Dynamo. If Porto, whoever other team that he was training with, come knocking, and he's not getting the minutes that he thinks he deserves here, I wouldn't blame him going overseas and trying his luck out again in Europe and trying to see if he hits out there.
You keep coming back to the same point, which is, if a U.S. club has a player in their pipeline, they need to focus on investing in that player. I agree. Yeah, however, I'm gonna flip it around for you one more time, and I'm gonna say if I'm that player and I have the opportunity to play for an MLS club where they're going to offer me, roughly speaking, around the same amount of money, but I have all these other potential perks going overseas, why wouldn't I go overseas?
No, I mean, and I understand that.
The reason I say that is because MLS puts a restriction on the amount that you can offer to a homegrown player year over year. Unless you sign them outside of being a homegrown player, you sign them to an official MLS contract that's not homegrown. But then MLS clubs are putting themselves at a major disadvantage because that player is likely not worth as much as that contract would be. What I'm saying is if I'm a player and I'm getting 2 offers and one offer is $5,000 more, as a player, the first thing my parents are going to say is, hey, both are living money, but why don't you maximize and make as much money as you can? Because your career is not guaranteed, no matter who you are. If you're a Freddie Adu or if you're a Christian Pulisic, your career is not guaranteed. You are not guaranteed a 20-year successful career.
No,
you are guaranteed what you currently have, and that is it. So if I'm that kid's parent, I'm saying you need to go overseas. I know it's going to be tougher for you, but it is more money now that you can put in the bank. So if those clubs are able to ask more or offer more money for the same caliber player, then yes, they're going to pick off all of our talent, and they're going to do it because they can afford to do it. MLS only invests so much money into youth development and then expects MLS teams to figure out how to make it work.
Well, see, then what we're doing basically is that we're just allowing everybody else to take our best prospects and just take them overseas, and then and then let them grow over there. And if they grow, great. And if they fail, well, nobody knows because they were stuck in some academy in some European team or whatever, And which, look, like I said, from if I'm in the shoes of that youth player, and I'm fighting to get on the first team with the Dynamo and I have an offer from a European team to go overseas and go play first team football. Obviously it's going to be hard to say no to going overseas, right? But like, you also got to weigh your opportunities, and you see all the time how many times do we see players, even great players, decide to go to a different system because, like, oh man, it's going to be better here. And they get shunned out, and they're stuck somewhere. They're just stuck doing nothing. I understand the money perspective. Don't get me wrong. Like, obviously if the money is right, you're going to try to go get as much money as you can because, your career is never guaranteed. I understand that completely. But you also got to look at the opportunity and to see what's best for you to actually grow a career. Because, I mean, what good does it make if you get offered to go to a European club and you're stuck in their academy for 5 years, and there goes 5 years of your career when you could have been playing first team in MLS, and somebody could have scouted you, and then you could have gone over and got a transfer fee to a first club instead of going to an academy.
But I think to counter that point, if I'm a player and I have an opportunity in front of me and I have a choice to make, I'm going to go with the one that is a proven successful model. And that right now is not MLS.
Oh, yeah.
That is absolutely Europe. And that's the point ultimately that I'm getting to is if I'm a player, if I'm a young kid, if I'm that academy player that and I'm looking, do I play for my hometown team and potentially ride the bench for another 2 years but still have the opportunity at first team play in 2 years? Or do I turn around and go overseas where I'm already being offered potentially a starting opportunity and make around the same amount, maybe even a little bit more, but I know that exposure is something that has proven to be a successful model for players like Gio Reyna, Christian Pulisic. Even Clint Dempsey went overseas and played overseas and was very successful over there. So, and Landon Donovan did the same thing. U.S. players have done this. It is a consistent thing for U.S. players, especially the really good ones, Sergio Dest. Like I said, Tyler Adams. I mean, we're seeing a ton of U.S. talent. The best U.S. talent right now, all are going overseas. They're not staying in MLS.
I know on the chat, Sergio said that like Central Americans come over here for MLS to try to get to Europe, and and all European clubs take a lot of South Americans to Europe. And it's but let's take South American players, for example. South American players, some allow them to go to Europe, but a lot of them stay. And a lot of them stay, even though the wages ain't as good as it is, and they build and they grow through that, and they become I'm gonna say legend, but they break through to the first teams and they do great things with the first teams at a young age, and then they go to Europe. I would like to see more examples of that over here in America, as opposed to just our youth players getting picked out from our academies from underneath our belts and taken away to other countries. No,
I do. I agree when it comes to players from other countries, but again, that ties into the earlier point, though, that how many times is MLS more likely to look at a player from another country than they are from a U.S. player? And I think we're seeing it more and more. They're going to be more likely to pluck that player because that player is more likely to stick around at least for a good period of time so that they can truly develop the player than a player that's a current U.S. player in their academy, where they're more likely to go over to overseas because the potential and opportunities are better over there overall. And nobody's going to argue that they're better overall over there. And I think the ceiling for a player is a lot higher over there. But to your point, the lower end ceiling is a little more equitable here in the U.S. than it actually is overseas or even South America or otherwise.
Well, we can keep going around in circles on this topic, and obviously, we're going to have a lot of time here going forward to continue talking about this. And obviously, like you said on the chat, we can continue this discussion on Twitter as well.
Yep.
But if you're willing to move on, I know we're kind of coming up on the hour.
Move on for the final 6 minutes of the show. Go for it. Better start rolling, buddy.
I really wanted to touch on something that I saw the other day.
I was avoiding that topic, by the way. You know that, right?
No. I'm not going to talk about that merger.
Oh, all right. Well, that's good because it's never happening. But okay.
Yeah. I mean, but what I do find interesting that the vice president of FIFA, when they were talking about that possibility of that merger, another thing came out of it that really grabbed my attention and I thought was really interesting, and it had to do with the CONCACAF Champions League and how they're going to expand it and put more money into it, like a lot more money into it than what it is right now. It's I think the payout for the winner is like 1.2 million or something like that, 1.5 million for the winner of the league, which compared to what European Champion League is, I think is like almost 200 mil to the winner. That's nothing. So I mean, the fact that they're going to invest more money, they're going to expand the field to where it's not just that. 4 MLS clubs, 4 La Liga, and then 1 from each other country from CONCACAF region. So I think it's going to be interesting format. I mean, I think they want to go towards the way European clubs are doing it. Maybe not to that large scale where they have that many groups, because I think it's 8 groups of 4 to start off with the Champions League. But I mean, if you can have 4 groups of 4 and start off like that and then see how it goes, and and if you're going to up the ante on that pot, like really, really invest and make that pot juicy for those teams, then I think you're going to see a lot of teams be invested and make sure that they qualify for these Champions League spots, to where they're going to get this extra revenue, because right now, I mean, yeah, Champions League is nice. And obviously when the Dynamo were in it, we were excited, and, we were excited to go see these matches and to see them go play a competitive game against teams from Guatemala and Mexico and all that stuff. But if you really put some financial backing into it to where clubs want to qualify and make sure that they place in the top 4 of their respective leagues or whatever, however they go about deciding the places for this new format that they want to bring out, I think it gives incentive for these teams not only to make sure that they place in one of those spots because they get the extra revenue, but I think it makes it more competitive domestic wise in the league as well.
I mean, I completely agree. I the more money that can come to MLS teams for playing well in the MLS season. Oh God, I said the actually the MLS season, because it's the season and MLS's season, and also in playoffs, and in Open Cup for that matter. Doing well in those competitions deserves a bigger payout. It really does, because it is you go from one season where you earn it, and then the next season, the amount that they were currently offering, it's enough to bring in 2 players. 2 players is not enough to compete with Liga MX. It's not enough to compete with most other, with a lot of the other teams fairly, because you're expected to still compete in the regular league season, where most of those teams are starting to taper off or just begin their seasons. And so it's just a different ballgame, and it requires bigger roster sizes, which I'm hopeful that we see some changes towards that direction this coming off season, whenever that may happen. So depth needs to be improved, and that happens with offering more money so that they can afford to sign more players at that lower level. I'm not talking about necessarily, signing, 8 Mauro Manotases to compete. I'm talking about signing, a couple of decent players to back up your highest level talent, but also, a couple more players to just have bench depth.
To strengthen the backbone, basically, you're saying.
Yeah.
But and also it could help out in a way where, how we were introduced to that League Nations Cup thing or whatever. Whatever
Nations League Cup. Yeah.
So I mean that can be like the Europa League. I mean, and then you have your.
We'll see, I suppose.
Yeah, your CONCACAF Champions League, obviously, and it's one of those. I think it's the thing where CONCACAF doesn't do well as opposed to CONMEBOL and UEFA is that there isn't that much international exposure because there's not that many tournaments, and every tournament that we see is basically of the top 4 teams in Liga MX, which is like your Club Americas, your Cruz Azuls, your Tigres and your Rayados versus LA Galaxy or LAFC, because those are the big spinning clubs in in MLS or Atlanta United, and that way you got other teams involved. I mean, you can see from one year or another year, maybe a Real Salt Lake in there, or if they qualify for the Leagues Nation Cup, you see a Portland Timbers or a Nashville SC or whatever. I think it's a great thing if they can move somewhere towards that. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's going to be the size of the Champions League or Europa League, obviously, because I mean, there's just so many clubs in Europe as opposed to over here in this region. But I mean, if we can move to something similar to that, and then obviously have the financial backing to it, where those pots, again, word of the day, juicy. I mean, it's going to be really appealing to these clubs. I mean, because obviously, if your biggest payday is off your domestic league, which it should be, but if you have a secondary path to where you can get some money and a nice amount of money, then clubs are going to stay focused. Because how many times do we see clubs? We're already qualified for playoffs. Let's make sure everybody's healthy. Let's make sure. But now if you tell them, hey, you qualify for playoffs and domestically, but if you don't qualify in the top 3 spots, you're not going to qualify for Champions League next year.
Yeah. Completely agreed. Like, put in some real initiative, some real, so give them something to play for. Make it worth the while. Real quick before we wrap up, because it is 8:00. I wanted to make sure that we did a good solid to our friends over at the Surge. They are hosting the Supporters Group League beginning Friday, tomorrow night at correct me if I'm wrong, 6 p.m. tomorrow. Yeah, 6 p.m. Central tomorrow. I will be doing commentary for some of, if not all, the matches, which there are like 10 per day. So Friday and Saturday. Make sure you tune in. It'll be on twitch.tv/thesurgesg. And it's going to be some really fun competition. It'll be fun to watch. And I will also give a shout out to COVID Liga 3. COVID Liga. Yes, it's the name of the league. It's amazing. COVID Liga 3, where the Surge has a team that is playing, also playing on Saturday, actually. I think 7 p.m. Central Time on Saturday. I will not be participating this week as a player. I'm going to play coach this week so that I can watch and try to pick out some things that can be improved upon. But guys, I'll take. Don't
tell me Sean Mourinho.
No, I want Pochettino. I want Pochettino back.
Okay.
No. It's gonna be fun to watch. And really fun to participate as a commentator for Supporters Group League and the opportunity to kind of coach, air quote coach, for COVID Liga 3. But yeah, tune in. You're going to love it. It's fun and it's fast action, so it is not boring at all. It does hurt when you get your ass scored on a few times. Trust me, I have been there multiple times. But you know what? We're improving every day, and we're committed to it. So tune in, like I said, twitch.tv/thesurgesg. We will be hosting from our Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/generationorange. As you guys, we have talked about, we are now on Periscope. If you're looking for that Periscope link, just check our Twitter feed, which is @GenOrangeRadio. And then also, of course, we're on YouTube every week. And if you need that link, just look for it on Twitter about 30 minutes or so before the show, maybe 15, depending on the day.
And also, before we leave, man, I know everybody's waiting to see which Bundesliga team I'm going to pick. I'm going to let the poll run for its full 24-hour poll, so just
man.
And I'll let y'all know next Thursday if we have a show, or prior to that. I'll see what we do. But yeah, man, I'm not saying that I'm gonna pick whatever the poll says, but leave your comments on there. Persuade me. Why do I need to be a fan of your team in the Bundesliga? I'm really looking for a team for real though, because I'm gonna sit there and watch this Bundesliga soccer though.
Cisco, real quick before we go, Cisco says, tell us about it, Sean. All I'm going to say is I've been on the losing end of an 11-0 defeat. Also, probably, I think it was like a 17-0. I don't know. It felt like it, but it was only 11-0. That's the worst I think I've been on. It happens, and it sucks to be the one trying to right that ship. But, like I said, the guys are improving tremendously. We're all improving tremendously, and we're looking forward to an opportunity to actually really go out there and represent as much as we can. But guys, thank you for tuning in. One final thing before we go. I mentioned it in YouTube chat. This is for the Periscope guys and the Twitch guys. Do us a favor, like the stream, share the stream, subscribe, and follow the channel. If you're on Twitch, that's follow. On Periscope, I think it's subscribe or like, or I don't know what it is, follow probably. And then if you're on YouTube, definitely subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it. We're getting closer every week. We're at 58, so we're slowly making our way to 100. So subscribe. Easy for me to say 3 times fast. And then tell your friends so that we can continue to grow. We're growing, and we appreciate it. So thank you guys, and have a great week.
Have a good one, guys.